As with demand, people will also talk about the relative elasticities of supply. While different points along the supply curve will have elastic or inelastic supply, we can compare their relative elasticities by looking at the supply curve as a whole. So just like with demand, we'll start with the extremes. And as you might guess, perfectly elastic supply could be represented by a horizontal line, meaning that at this price, supply would be infinite, but lower the price even a bit, and supply would go to zero. There aren't very many real-world examples of this type of a product, but we might think about maybe a good with a constant cost of production, constant marginal cost, where price is equal to marginal cost, meaning that the producer is selling at cost. So if the price drops at all, it won't be worthwhile for the producer to sell any. Perfectly inelastic supply, on the other hand, would be a vertical supply curve where the quantity is fixed regardless of the price. No matter how high the price goes, the quantity supply cannot increase. Here you could think about goods that are constrained by some factor other than the market. For example, land in Manhattan cannot be expanded regardless of how expensive it becomes. By looking at these two extremes, we can again see that the flatter the supply curve, the more elastic, and the steeper the supply curve, the less elastic. So we'll apply that to the example below to examine the relative elasticity of supply 1 and supply 2. Which is more elastic? Well, we can see that supply for good 1 is flatter than supply for good 2. So that tells me that it will be more elastic. And we can see that that's true if we consider a price change and the response of producers of both good 1 and 2. So suppose that we start here at this price. And the price decreases. This makes it less profitable to produce these products. Therefore, we should see the quantity supplied decrease. The question is how much? For good 2, the quantity supplied decreases only a little bit. But for good 1, the quantity supplied decreases quite a lot. So you can see that producers of good 1 are more responsive to the same change in price than producers of good 2, which is why we say that supply for good 1 is more elastic than the supply of good 2.